Today, some Oregon state legislators are raising concerns about the future of the state's kicker tax credit. Fox host Joe Bethiathil is here in the studio to explain. And Joe, this all comes from a big report on the state's economy. What are the big takeaways?
Well, Kim, a positive top line is that Oregon has avoided a recession and the economy is described as being moderately healthy. But one question does surround those kickers that Oregon taxpayers have received in recent years. They used to be checks that we get in the mail. Now they come in the form of a tax credit. Now, to explain what the issue is, first, we have to describe where those kickers come from. Every 2 years, the state makes a revenue forecast to predict how much tax money will come in. And that helps determine how much the government budgets and spends for the coming 2 years. Now, if the state ends up bringing in more tax money than they expected, that excess money goes back to taxpayers in the form of those kickers. So hypothetically, if the state predicts $2 billion in revenue and then they bring in $3 billion, well, that extra billion would go back to Oregonians as kicker tax credits. And Oregon's had a few multi-billion-dollar kickers in recent years. This year, it totaled $5.6 billion that went back to taxpayers. Well, now the state has a new chief economist. And in his report that was released yesterday, he said that the state has made some adjustments in how it will project incoming tax dollars. Now, without getting too much in the weeds here, he basically wants to be more accurate in those projections and not come up with these big multi-billion-dollar gaps. Now, if those projections end up being more accurate, well, that would mean smaller kickers and potentially maybe no kickers at all. That has some Republicans in the legislature concerned. Senator Lynn Finley is a member of the Senate Finance and Revenue Committee. In a statement she wrote, quote, "The kicker is the people's money and it should remain so. While this biennium's kicker appears secure, changes to the revenue model could lead to smaller refunds in the future, and we need to ensure taxpayers are treated fairly." Now, we have to point out, it's important to note that these adjustments will not impact how much you pay in state taxes. And also, as we mentioned in that statement right there, it's not expected to affect the next potential kicker, which would go out in 2026. Right now, that's projected to be about $1.8 billion. That amount could change. But if going forward, the state is able to make more accurate tax revenue predictions, well, that could then potentially affect a kicker in 2028 and beyond. Kim and Shauna, back to you.